A very beautiful morning to you out there. Thanks so much for joining us on Political Platform. It's our program that we take you around the terrain of the Nigerian political environment. Our duty is to fish for all the reports, and then we give you the analysis of the events as they happen and as they unfold. And the beautiful, very, very beautiful aspect of the program is that we also provide the opportunity for you to share with us your views, your opinion, and then suggestions on how you think we can move the wheels of our young democracy faster and the roots deeper into the soil. My name is Okiri Agbonsuremi. It's a weekend of reactions to the event which led to the acquittal of Olabode George, a former vice chairman or deputy chairman of the People's Democratic Party. You recall the whole story, how he was alleged to have split contract as chairman of the NPA board, the Nigerian Pulse Authority. The Supreme Court says there's no law in Nigeria that was offended by the splitting of the contract. And indeed, Bode George has said he is vindicated, and those who thought that he could took a bag of money out of the NPA and ran away should now know that he did not. Of course, Nigerians are reacting. We have some of the reactions, and what is beautiful is also that the court has always the last say, and we always say here on the program that even if a judge is drunk and he takes a decision in the interest of the rule of law, all of us must obey and respect the decision of that court. Now, we also be taking some fall off from South Africa. Mandela was buried yesterday, and a lot of things, tradition met with the modernity, as if you reading through the pages and you watched the event, you see how the South African demonstrated how it was good to marry culture with modernity, as Mandela enjoyed his kinsman's burial cultural practices. And of course, we'll be taking a look at the life. It is never ended. We can never, in a single program, talk about how much we can benefit from the life of Mandela. Then the Obasanjo letter is also still raising a lot of issues around Nigeria. It's getting to a point where everybody is now beginning to say, are we deliberately running this country into a standstill? This country is running. There's a government in power. And of course, the calls, both from the opposition and from the government itself, the opposition saying that the Jonathan should be impeached, and the presidency saying no, that is a wrong step, and that some persons want to put these countries down. They should know that there's a law that governs treasonable acts in Nigeria. And of course, it's one that we on the program will also be asking for us to put Nigeria on the table so that we have a country after all these disagreements and confusion. Okiri Agbonsuremi here. I have Mustafa Mohammed on the platform with me. Mustafa, welcome to Political Platform.
Thank you, Okiri. Good morning.
And Mustafa, you were also last week, for the better part of last week, you were out following the Minister of Works to the West Coast to see how the West Trans-Africa Road is being developed, and we hope that Nigeria will have some goodies from that, the development of a road that will link the entire West Africa.
It's actually a 6-lane dual carriage, 1,077 kilometers, traversing through Lagos, Cotonou, Togo, Accra down to Abidjan, which means goods and services can be moved freely, and then the road will have a road authority. Our own minister, Mike Onolememe, is the chairman of the steering committee of the ministers of the 5 countries involved, justice ministers, works ministers, and then finance ministers. They also have identified sources of funding from development banks and what have you. So finally, in January 2014, these 5 head of states are expected to ratify and sign the documents in Addis Ababa.
And I believe that this, for those who move goods and services, who travel around West Africa, of course, you know that we are actually brothers all over. If you go to Togo, who is just coming in, will admit that if you go to Togo, the amala in Togo, we will even say it's better than the one you can find in under the bridge in Obalende in Lagos. You will not believe that they are not indeed made here. To tell you that we have so many things in common. And you do welcome to Political Platform.
Thank you very much. Good morning, listener.
Now let's go to our mailbox, Political Platform at yahoo.com. Let's see who is talking to us this morning.
Good morning and good to know you are there. I am Chinemerem Ugu.
I am Shade Ologbodion. Good morning.
All right, this one says, impeach President Jonathan now, says APC. And it's a mail coming from Amechi Obochi. He writes us from Kubwa in Abuja. He says, the opposition party, APC, told the National Assembly members to impeach President Jonathan now. That was a very good advice from APC. But APC must understand that President Jonathan is not Nigeria's problem, such that when he leaves that presidential seat, all our numerous problems will be solved. APC should offer advice and suggestions on ways of solving some of the problems facing this country, rather than asking that the president be impeached. Most of the problems in Nigeria have been with us before the coming of Jonathan. For us to move forward as a country, all hands must be on deck, irrespective of party, tribe or religion. Nigeria is for us all.
And on the acquittal of Olabode George by the Supreme Court, Oko Chukwuka writes us from Abuja, and he says, the acquittal of Olabode George and 5 other former members of the Nigerian Port Authority on charges of contract splitting and inflation after spending 30 months in jail by the Supreme Court is a big setback in the fight against corruption in the country. Does the Supreme Court know the negative signal it is sending to the entire world on the fight against corruption in Nigeria? The Supreme Court's decision may dampen the morale of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, in its fight against corruption, which is eating deep in the fabric of the country.
Still on the court verdict on Bode George, Victor Kingsley writes us from Abuja, and he says, the court that used to be the last hope of the common man has become a safe haven for the rich and mighty. A top politician will commit fraud and amass monies to the tune of 24 billion naira and will be freed, while a poor man who stole a GSM phone of 4,000 naira is sentenced to 15 years in prison. Shame on our judiciary. Shame on those who call themselves learned colleague. They are nothing but enemies of Nigeria. They are the ones helping the executives to loot. The case of Dimiji Bankole, Maina, Otidola and Farouk have all been killed. Chai, God bless Nigeria.
And on the shooting of a Federal Road Safety Commission official in Abuja, Obi writes us from Abuja, and his mail reads, the sad shooting of a Federal Road Safety Commission official in Abuja by a policeman is unfortunate. These are agencies that are supposed to work together, but the policeman took advantage of his arms to injure the FRSC man. I call on the IG to bring those involved to book and advise that all the agencies should work together for the good of Nigeria.
All right, still on reckless convoy drivers, Tochukwu writes us from Abuja, and his mail reads, I am disappointed that, despite the several convoy accidents, some of the convoys still drive recklessly. My experience during the weekend with the convoy of a northern state governor along Nyanya Road was bitter. They nearly engaged in a fatal crash, but God intervened. I urge the Federal Road Safety Commission to come harder on any convoy that drives recklessly.
And on Clara Chime, Solomon Ukiwe writes us from Kubwa in Abuja, and his mail reads, I listened to your program last week Friday and was appalled that Clara Chime's matter has not been thoroughly investigated and laid to rest. Nigeria is the only place where powerful people commit impunity with reckless abandon and get away with it. It is so sad that Governor Chime will have to wait to be reminded to say, I am sorry, just like Governor Oshiomhole. Those 3 words could make or mar him. He should apologize to Clara and Nigerian women or be impeached immediately.
And this is where we wrap it up on this segment. So keep sending your mails to politicalplatform@yahoo.com.
Yes, keep them coming. Have very hard mails you want to say. I will always want to advise that the coin always has 2 broad sides. Even the side, the narrow side, which is the third side of the coin, is also sometimes it takes you, a very objective person, to take a look at the total package so that you see what is happening. And this new thing, impeach him. We want to ask if Governor Chime and his wife have a problem, and even at the stretch, at the very, very end, if you stretch it to the very end, he is found guilty of keeping her in a house locked up against her wish. There are things that can be done to free her from that. I wouldn't know if that one also constitutes an impeachable offense.
Marital rascality, marital disagreement, or whatever you know, or matrimonial crisis does not constitute an impeachment.
No. There you are.
because to a very large extent, the Constitution didn't include that as part of the factors that constitute impeachable offenses.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree that if a man progresses in error with respect to handling his or his wife properly, you could do quite a lot of things. But whether it will find space in our constitution is a different thing. That is not to say that the man cannot apologize. But before we progress further, let's let you know that Uju J has just joined us.
Uju, welcome to Political Platform.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you were,
sorry, I was almost there.
When it comes to women like this one,
I'm a woman. They say he who feels it knows it.
Yeah, they say when you mention that white ant, the white man with the white skin begins to, shake because.
There's a way they put it in my place. They say if you are roasting the bird, they say the chicken will be looking at you with.
I think that what we're looking at here is not just marital rascality or just a problem between them, but abuse of her fundamental human rights. She has a right to so many things, even if she's mentally demented.
Does it constitute a gross misconduct in the contemplation of the writers of the Constitution?
It's not gross misconduct, but you know where it got me was where he said whether it's a crime. It's a crime if he impinged on her fundamental human rights. And I believe that in that wise, it is a criminal offense.
You know, Ohiria, the drafters of the Constitution acknowledge the fact that whoever is the president, whoever is the governor, whoever is the local government chairman is a human being and can make mistakes. Yeah. And that is why they say mistakes are allowed. But when it becomes gross, the issue of impeachment is applied as the big stick when there is a gross misconduct. Yes. But unfortunately for the Nigerian people, it is just left to the National Assembly in the case of the center and the State Assembly in the case of the states, and then the local government councillors in the case of the local government to interpret what constitutes a gross misconduct. The Constitution is not very, very clear on what constitutes a gross misconduct.
Of course, we have talked about this. If you are familiar with those days when impeachment motions were flying from left to right, we did say on this program here, and we concluded, and almost all those who will listen to us will agree that there is a hole there, there's a window that you can actually use that will constitute an abuse of the impeachment processes. But on the program today, what we are saying is that it is not everything that the governor does that constitutes an impeachment, impeachable offense that you just have to remove the governor. And it also takes us to the issue of the Obasanjo letter and the reaction that is coming in. The APC says that Obasanjo should Jonathan should be impeached, and we ask, are we not driving the tension too high in the way we examine some of the things? I agree that if there are impeachable offenses, the National Assembly can consider it. And that's why I also like Lai Mohammed, the spokesperson for the APC, who took the matter to the National Assembly. Of course, he said the National Assembly should examine it and see if it is not possible to get the president impeached because of the issues raised. But I strongly believe that this country belongs to all of us. This country is a country that cannot be run by Jonathan alone. It has to be run in conjunction with the opposition, who must point fingers at the direction that we must go. It must run with a very, very good civil service. It must run with the security, those who are performing their role, and all of us, including the media, that must perform their role and do it in such a way that all of us will have our role played in special ways for this country to continue to move forward. Like one of the writers also said, if Jonathan is seen as the single problem and you remove him, does it solve the entire problems? Now, if we have a president who many believe, particularly in the opposition, need to be told where we are going and be reminded where we are, like Obasanjo has done, in writing a very beautiful 18-page letter to him to tell him this is where we are and we must move away from the track that we are treading, then all of us must allow this robust debate and opinion to go on without really driving Nigeria or attempting to put Nigeria in a coffin and seal it up because our interest is either being infringed as a government or as opposition. We also do not have a way of pushing our interest. I think what is important in Nigeria is for all of us to be responsible in our suggestions, responsible in the formulation and operations and the implementation of policies, such that the ordinary Nigerian and Nigeria as a nation will stand tall.
You see, Nigerian leaders over the years are some of the best policy formulators. But if you begin to ask us, where do we go wrong and how do we go wrong? Look at Obasanjo's 8 years in office. If you're looking for impeachable offenses, there were so many. Even during Yar'Adua, the lack of budget implementation, extra budgetary spending, and so many others. But the greatest problem we have in this country is lack of very strong institutions that can really work. The entire Nigeria and administration at all the three tiers of government are centered around individuals. That's why when an individual is not in the country, nothing works. When an individual does not attend an event, even the ministers will not go to the event where the president will not come. When an individual does not endorse what will happen, then even the ministries cannot work. The parastatals cannot. It's even worse in the state, because most of the governors are either in Abuja or in Dubai and Thailand enjoying themselves. And once a governor is out of the state, you need to go to this state and see. So the issue of impeachable offenses are not things that we expect the National Assemblies to toy with. But I would want to ask whether people like Lai Mohammed have been in slumber during the Obasanjo administration for 8 years, during the Yar'Adua administration, and even during the period when President Goodluck Jonathan took over government as sworn in after the election till this moment. They really need to be sincere. We need to build institutions. We don't need to have everything tied around individuals. That's why when somebody does not agree, then the government policies will not take place. Some of the debates are actually very ugly.
I can tell you, before I even come to the issue of Obasanjo, let's take a look at those who are criticizing the judiciary on the judgment on Olabode George. I recall while in the primary school, we started writing with chalk, and that time they used duster to clean it. If you write on the board, the reason why they created duster is because it's anticipated that mistakes will be made. While we progressed, we started using pencil. And we also discovered that on top of the HB pencil we're using, you have an eraser. The implication is that even when you write with a pencil, you can also erase. And as we progress, we started using biro. And when you write with biro, you also cancel. And these days where people write with marker, they also have wiper. That is to say that the man who created the pencil for you to write, he has also the wisdom to create the eraser for you to erase. It was the court that gave us the strength to call Olabode George a thief. The same court says no, that they progressed in error, that this man is not a thief and we should not call him a thief. We are now quarreling with that particular judgment because we think that we know better. If we progress along that line, number one, we'll be jeopardizing our democracy. We will also be creating hypertension on everybody. If we had the strength to begin to call him that based on what the court told us, and the court, having examined the evidence available to it, says that Olabode George does not qualify to be called the name that we were calling him and that we progressed in error, why should we now begin to take the court to the cleaners because they have reasoned differently? I think that we must begin to have confidence in the judiciary on issues like this, irrespective of the height of the emotions. Because when we don't do, we will be jeopardizing our democracy. And if we progress from that to the issue of the Obasanjo and other issues, there is this word that says government is about shared responsibilities but differentiated function. And that is why you have those in the National Assembly making the laws, those in the judiciary interpreting the laws, and those in the executive implementing the laws. But at the end of the day, they call them government, all working for the good governance and the welfare of the people of the country, as spelled out in Section 14, subsection 2, paragraph B of the 1999 Constitution. We must look at these issues and then remove the sentiments and the politics and then begin to look at the aim. Perhaps as we progress, we'll begin to look at why we may have to remove Obasanjo's person from the letter he wrote, but also look at the motive, because that you cannot take away.
Well, especially when you also look at the fact the Ghanaian writer, I think is Amma Kwei, somebody who says the beautiful ones are not yet born. And even Jesus Christ, when they were trying to stone the woman to death, they said, oh, she's guilty, she's that. They said, let him who has no sin cast the first stone. You look at leadership in this country. I mean, morally speaking, I honestly do not think that Obasanjo has a strong stand, to make the kind of assertions or allegations that he has made. And then again, I think that those allegations are too weighty, that they are not things that if we truly we love this country, if truly we want the country to remain one and progress, that we should be flaunting. And the opposition knows this very well. Again, you look at the opposition that is talking. Look at what is happening in Ekiti State. There have been killings that nobody can explain. You look at what is happening in some of the states where they are. I mean, can they actually stand up? Can Lai Mohammed stand up and say, oh, where we govern, everything is clean, even Tinubu's 8 years of government? Look at all the people pointing, accusing fingers. Can any one of them actually stand out as a saint?
And cast the first stone.
And cast the first stone. You understand? But I think that love for this country should override every other thing. If you ask me, I honestly think that we should play down on this Obasanjo's letter issue if we love this country. And secondly, I also think that, like Mustafa pointed out, we need to start building strong institutions. We need to come up with laws, if possible, to strengthen our institutions so that our institutions are not individual based, to the point that even when one individual coughs, everybody starts shaking. That is one. Then secondly, I think that Jonathan, if he's a wise man, and I believe that he is, should rather answer with action. I think that Nigerians have gotten to this stage where they are tired of words, this one, all kinds of promises and words and no action. They want to see positive action. Let him reply with positive action. That is the only thing that can convince Nigerians that his intentions are sincere and not too much talk. That's why they are all talking about impeachment, because they're sick and tired of these kind of leaders, and it has been a vicious cycle. This kind of leaders going, this kind of leaders coming. They want a breath of fresh air.
We go straight to other issues now. We try to limit the talk about politics, and we try to see what development we can bring to bear on what issues we can bring to bear, the analysis of issues that will make the government stand on its toes and do what it has promised. From electricity to road construction, increase in power supply around Nigeria, to road construction, to provision of Medicare. The ASU strike have been resolved. We are very happy on the platform. It's one issue that we put on top of the table here, and we just hope that the students will be called to the classes, even when it is just 9 days to Christmas. They will be called to the class. They have had a lot of holidays, and but the best ringing in the medical circle is not one that is also very good, as the students are getting ready to go back, to getting ready to come back. We just hope that the federal government and all those who are concerned should please avert the possibility of a strike in our hospitals, no matter what issues are on. And not forgetting the academic staff of polytechnics who are also still on strike. Something must be done urgently. We're also thinking that the Minister of Education should quickly, urgently take a look at it so that we do not enter the new year with the polytechnics still under locks and key.
You know, when I spoke about strengthening the institutions, things will work very well if the institutions are really made to work the way they should work. Now, we are talking about capacity to deliver. People who are singing praises of Nelson Mandela, it's not about his individual person only. What were the institutions like? He preached forgiveness, he preached unity, he asked everybody to go back and work for national development and put what happened behind them. And then the South Africa succeeded. Nigerians were rushing, queuing up for visa to go to South Africa because there were opportunities. Then we can also replicate the same thing in this place. You will discover that people will want to mop what is meant for development into their private pockets because they have opportunities to do that. Then the country and then the institutions will not have anything. When the problem begins, people must look at the leaders and begin to hold all manner of allegations. These are the kind of things we should try and avoid.
Of course, when you develop the institutions, you know that what happened, I think it was Condoleezza Rice that first told us, and another former president of the United States of America spoke. And when Obama came to West Africa, visiting Ghana and one other country, he also reminded Nigeria that all we need to do are not we are not supposed to produce super beings, people who have no power, who have no errors, superhumans that when they act, then we have seen those in the past. I mean, we have seen the evolution of religion over the world. Those who came as super being and God gave them all the strength. But when you talk of governance, you do not expect that you have super beings, a super president. If you make a super president, absolute power corrupts, Absolutely. And that is how it is. That is stated. So Mustafa's call is very, very apt, and it is one that we are calling on everybody to assist in the deepening of our development of the institutions. Rather than talk about Jonathan, talk about the Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu in Lagos, talk about the Muhammadu Buhari. Let us talk about what the institution, because no matter who you elect as president, if the institution of the presidency is strong, it keys into whatever is there. That is why if you look at the history of the United States of America, no matter which party produces the president, they have their own fingers on what is already on the ground. They then not move away from them, because that is the spirit of the American people. So irrespective of whether it is the Democrats or the Republicans that produce the president, you can say there's an American identity. But I'm afraid that the way we are going, if for any reason good Lord Jonathan does not even run, or he runs is defeated in the 2015 elections, and the opposition, for instance, takes over the governance, I begin to imagine what will happen in Nigeria, because all we will be celebrating is a defeat of a cluster of leaders who have gone, and they will now begin to do what we want to do, just like what we have done in the past.
Tribal issues are here. In that letter, Jonathan was referred to as Ijo president. Then you'll want to see a Hausa Fulani president or a Yoruba president coming in, which is actually very dangerous.
I have said it very often that we oftentimes join issues without even looking at the motives of those who are bringing up the issues. If you take a look at Section 4 of the Constitution and the powers it vests in the National Assembly to make laws for the order and the good governance of the country, you will understand that for you to build institutions, the National Assembly is actually, constitutionally speaking, the most powerful arm of government. If you also look at the Constitution, it is not by mistake that is the first institution mentioned in the Constitution, even before the executive arm.
They actually still oversight the executive.
The powers, have you bothered to ask yourself, why is the president more powerful than a governor? Why is a governor more powerful than a local government chairman? It is by the provisions of the law. The law is also made it also very, very clear in Section 9 of the Constitution that the National Assembly has the power to even amend the Constitution to say, Mr. President, you can do this, you cannot do that. Let us recall very, very recently when our former President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua was sick, and there was a problem everywhere. The doctrine of necessity was made possible by the interpretation of Section 145 or thereabout of the 1999 Constitution. And thereafter, the committee, the two committees of the two chambers of the National Assembly progressed to amending that Constitution in such a way that that particular provision of the Constitution can be activated even if the incumbent decide not to write the National Assembly. The National Assembly can say, for 2 weeks we have not heard from you, and through a motion that can be activated. And so when we talk about the growth of the institutions, we must begin to look at how do those in the National Assembly conduct themselves. Because if you must be able to build a strong institution,
you must have a
they themselves must pay a price. Let the lawmakers pay the price. The price is that they must first of all shun corruption, because if they don't go to oversight and be drinking coffee and be drinking juice, they will be able to tell a particular minister or even the president that you have progressed in error, and they will be able to get the support of the Nigerian people.
And let them also run the risk of even losing a second nomination, because you see, this is where political parties come into. Fiefdom is built around individuals in political parties. That's why the whole of the South-South, exactly, the whole of the South-South must go and bow to one particular man. If you are seeking re-nomination into or nomination at all into any office, the whole of the Southwest has to bow to a particular individual, and it goes round the 6 geopolitical zones. Without bowing to that individual, you cannot get nomination. So we have to do something about this.
Those political idols called godfathers.
That's the godfatherism. That's it. We have to build strong political parties too, and political parties must rise. And our elected officers should learn to run the risk of losing even that temporary gain for a more permanent one.
Of course, drop us a line. Politicalplatform@yahoo.com. How do we build our institutions? Our time has run out and we must go now. Tomorrow when we come back, we'll have more for you. And remember, we are expecting your mails. Politicalplatform@yahoo.com. Okiri Agmonsuremi here on behalf of my colleagues. Please do have a wonderful week ahead.